to get this information about the voter fraud that's taking place here in California. The open and blatant fraud that's taking place inside of Minnesota. What's some of the fraud that's also taking place here inside of Minnesota? Ma'am, what do you think about the fraud that's taking place here in Minnesota? And do you think there is fraud taking place here? We've been seeing fraud taking place for years. And so would you say a lot of that is fraud that's taking place here in Minnesota?
Absolutely.
This is fraud taking place. Oh. And what do you think about the fraud taking place here in Minnesota? The fraud taking place in Minnesota. Because we hear there's lots of fraud taking place here in Minnesota, and about the fraud taking place
benevolent
here inside Minnesota. Investigating the fraud that's taking place here in Minnesota. Potentially the largest fraud scandal in U.S. history is taking place in Minnesota. Fraud's been taking place for years. Concerning about all this fraud taking place, what do you think about the fraud that's taking place here in Minnesota? More fraud taking place here. How much fraud is taking place? Not the fraud that's been taking place specific. The fraud taking place? To expose more of the fraud taking place. Massive fraud story taking place in America. But what do you guys think about the fraud that's taking place here in Minnesota? And what kind of fraud is taking place? The blatant fraud taking place at daycares and other locations across Minnesota.
benevolent.
To get this information about the voter fraud that's taking place here in California. The open and blatant fraud that's taking place.
Now that we get further into this space, it seems like there's so many, not saying Nick's a Fed, but like it's clear that so many people are getting funded by different organizations, different governments, and different intelligence assets, right? By different intelligence groups. It's like almost everybody you could, like, there's so many plants in the talking head political sphere. So many. I think that's got to be the reason why part of the reason there's so many hate watchers is that there's no real allegation, there's no real proof or evidence. Not only that I'm not view botting, but that I'm not funded by anybody. I don't think for so many other talking heads, you can't confidently say the same thing. So I think people are attracted to that naturally. SNEAKO is being funded by Saudi Arabia and Qatar. The first person to say that was Tommy Rubenstein. Now everybody knows he's a Mossad shill. All over the Epstein files are celebrating that. SNEAKO is being funded. Come on. But I don't know how many others. No, I'm not suggesting that anybody's being. No, but I think you can I think part of the reason people are attracted to this is because that, like, everybody could tell. Everybody could tell. Who would I be funded by?